Well, let's go back just for a second. I want to go back just to kind of pre-COVID and all this stuff. I mean, you've been through, what, 3 college football seasons that were quote normal, and then this. So, what did you find to be the more difficult situation to navigate? Was it the COVID preseason, or was it the COVID, during the season?
I would say the preseason was the most challenging part, just because it was so unexpected, and we were on our toes the entire time, from when quarantine hit, which was like mid-March, through about June. I mean, we were on our toes all the time about, are we going to go back to school and work out? Are we going to be at home this whole time? What are meetings? We don't have no spring ball, so how are we going to compromise with that? So we had to get on Zoom calls, and it was very spontaneous of just what we were going to do. And oftentimes, it would be a couple days before that we would get a message on our Teamworks app, which is how our coaches and everybody communicates with the entire team, that we'd have a team meeting, or that we'd have position meetings tomorrow morning, or whatever the case may be. So you had to be really, really close to your phone, and stay in contact with everybody, because you just never knew what the next day was going to look like, to be honest. So I would say that time period, that 2-month, 3-month time period from March to May was the most challenging. But I mean, honestly, it all was hard. It was all very hard. When we got into the season, we were getting tested 3 times a week, and had to follow a whole bunch of new protocols, for whenever we were in the complex, when we were at practice, when we were eating. I mean, just everything was different than what it had been before. And like you said, me being in the program for 3 years, I was so accustomed to what it was like normally. So whenever it was, a lot of things were changed, it was a bit odd and kind of hard to get into a routine. But, Coach Kleiman just kept on telling us that, man, that this is the new normal, and we have to accept it and find a way to not let it be a distraction anymore. And, I think that was the biggest challenge throughout the entire year, because every week it felt like we were down some guys, or down some key guys, and some guys were expected to play that probably wouldn't have been if it was a normal year. But it was all very challenging, but I thought we handled it really well, especially towards the end of the year. I don't think people on the outside really realized how short we were at some spots, and with guys getting injured on top of that, like it was a true challenge. But I think in the long run, it's going to benefit us a lot, because a lot of younger guys got some key playing time in some key games for some very good teams. So I think that's going to give us some experience at some spots where we're going to have some younger guys playing, and that's going to benefit us in the future.
Not to say that it's not challenging to not have a spring ball as if you're playing on the defensive side, but offensively, you have the new offensive line that's could have used that to learn communication. But then also from a quarterback, receiving standpoint, you guys are used to being out there in the summer where, you're working on routes and stuff together. I mean, did it really take a toll on the offense this year? Is just not being able to have that typical kind of preparation that you would normally have? And part 2, I guess, of that is, how do you then prepare to possibly not have a spring again this coming spring season?
I definitely think, that stuff does come into play. And the lack of, 7-on-7 throwing sessions that we had in the summer, a shrunken down fall camp, it definitely made it more challenging. And, I kind of felt that a little bit in our first game of the year, just timing being off on some little things. Not making excuses at all, but you could just kind of just feel that it just we weren't on the same page all the time. And truly just inches off on some really big plays that probably could have changed the outcome of that game. But we played the Arkansas State game, then we had 2 weeks before the Oklahoma game. And before the Arkansas State game, Malik was out with a close contact. I mean, he practiced, I want to say, once or twice before that game, for the Arkansas State game. So and him being one of my go-to guys outside, that definitely presented us with some challenges. But whenever we got that 2 weeks before the OU game, that the issues that we were having or that we were off on kind of reared their head in the Arkansas State games, to where we had 2 weeks to really work on those things. And you saw that work pay off whenever we played OU. I felt like we were all on the same page and really working together as an offense. Yeah, we had a slow start, but we figured it out and started to get into a rhythm and a routine and understanding what our identity was as an offense. So I think that stuff plays into effect when it comes to especially the quarterback and receivers, tight ends, all that timing type stuff. I think it affected more so than some other spots. But moving into this spring and the possibility of not having one this year, it's prepared us. What last year prepared us for a lot of things, and I think it's not going to be an excuse this year. We've been through it before. We know what it's going to be like. So mentally, we can prepare for it, and not be surprised if something does unexpectedly come up to where we can't practice. We can't. We have to shut down for a couple of days, whatever the case may be. I think that stuff is going to benefit us a lot. But at the end of the day, it's just you got to find ways to get that stuff accomplished, and whatever that may look like, and that's something that just comes up. You got to come up with off the top of your head whenever the time presents itself. It's something you can't really truly prepare for in some ways. So the big thing for us is just getting to the film room, watching film together, getting on the same page mentally more so than physically. I think that's something that can really, help us and take our game to the next level with our quarterback position and our receivers and our skilled guys, is being on the same page mentally and understanding what I'm thinking or what Will's thinking, whatever the case may be, before it even happens. And, and I've had that connection personally with guys like Briley and Dalton Schoen. And, my challenge for myself is getting that mental connection that I had with Briley and Schoen and, guys like BP, is having that with all my guys this year, and that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of work, but it's definitely something that we can do. And I know that the guys we have coming back are really excited about that and want to be on the same page with me and do that the right way.
I wanted to ask you one more thing when it comes to COVID, just because I don't know if it's ever really been asked, but from a senior and a captain standpoint, where you are, did you find yourself having to, I don't want to say babysit, but maybe keep an open ear, an open eye out to quote locker room habits a little more, where you're, I don't know, trying to kind of keep order, or did you find that most of the locker room kind of bought into the regulations and rules and protocols and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think definitely at first, guys like myself, Noah Johnson, upperclassmen that have been around for a while and that are pretty mature guys, definitely had to keep our ear out and keep an eye out for what was going on. Because just, a freshman coming to the program, they don't know what it's like normally. Guys that came in the summer, it was brand new, and this is how it's like. And it's like, guys, this is nothing what it will be like in a normal year. But I truly believe that by the end of the year, the guys that we had on our team were fully bought into what we were doing, and to the protocols, and we were doing the best job we could do. I mean, truly, I mean, it was, just like I said earlier, just everything was different. And there was a protocol to everything, and wearing masks on the airplanes and social distancing. And I mean, there was just, I could make a whole list go on about the things that we had to do that were a little different than normal. But, I think this year truly it weeded out for everybody across the entire country. It weeded out the guys who were not bought into wherever they were at, because it was anything but easy. And if you truly didn't believe in what was taking place in your program, in the protocols, and it didn't mean that much to you, then, you know, it was hard to do. Truly. I mean, it was challenging for me to do,
Right.
and I'll be the first to admit it. I mean, it's just, it takes a toll on you whenever, you know, you're a college kid, you're expected to, not expected, but it's normal to go out and socialize and be on campus, be around people. I mean, and we were getting none of that. I mean, you're going straight to the complex for practice and lifting and all that type of stuff. Then we're told to go home and not leave our house, you know, and that over a 6-month time span, that can be very, very draining and can take a toll on you. And so, yeah, that it definitely, I would say that at first it was definitely more so, I wouldn't necessarily call like a babysit, but it was definitely having to be a leader and set the example, you know, first and foremost. But then keeping an eye and ear out for the guys in the locker room, making sure they're doing the right things as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've been self-quarantined here with my wife with a newborn for a couple weeks, and I'm not, you know, 18, 19, 20 years old. So I can
Yeah.
only imagine the challenges, you know? So,
Yeah, no doubt.
getting back though to you, from an athletic standpoint, have you ever had the immediate high to the immediate low that you had from, you know, you have Oklahoma, you beat OU on their turf, you're embracing Coach Kleiman's, you know, I love you 10 and all that stuff in the post game. You get all the Big 12 awards afterwards. Everything is rolling. And then Texas Tech comes, you're up 7-0. 1st and 20 on your own 33. Rico Jeffers comes up on a blitz. I think you were looking for Keon Mosey down the sideline.
Yep.
And then that just crack happens, and snap of a fingers, it's done. And I mean, I don't know, did you know it was as severe kind of the minute that it happened, or did that take some time? And again, just that going from that high to that low, have you ever experienced anything like that athletically?
No, truly. And just like, I mean, truly the first 3 games of the year were the biggest roller coaster that I've ever been on since I ever knew what a football was. I mean, you know, we come out and lose to Arkansas State, and everybody's freaking out about this and that, whatever the case may be. And then we come out and beat Oklahoma, you know, and I played one of the best games I've played in my college career. And like you said, I got some rewards after that game. Our entire team did. I think we swept all the players of the week in the conference. So, you know, that was huge. And truly after the Oklahoma game, you know, I was like, I remember sitting at home that night, and I was like, man, like we're about to start rolling. You know, I could feel our offensive line got a game underneath their belt, got some confidence. Deuce Vaughn got going. Briley was being Briley, and just everybody was, our defense was making plays. We were making plays in special teams. We were playing K-State football, and it just had me so excited, because I was like, man, I personally found a mindset that really works for me, and how to approach a game, how to approach my emotions throughout the entire game. And then next thing you know, the next week, it all came crashing down. And honestly, whenever the hit happened, I had no idea that it was as severe as it was. When I initially got hit and was on the ground, I felt fine. It wasn't until I got up and tried to move my arm a little bit to get the next play, and couldn't really feel anything in my arm. And, you know, I immediately, you know, like, this can't be good. I mean, it felt like a really, really sharp pain going down through my entire arm. And so, you know, I didn't know if it was a broken collarbone. I didn't know what the case may be, because I honestly have never really experienced a severe injury before. So whenever I got in the locker room and did all my testing, there was nothing broken. So, you know, the doctors kind of left it up to me of, you know, how are you feeling type thing. Do you feel like there's something you can play through? And so then I picked up a ball to see if I could throw it, and I couldn't even wrap my hands around the ball to grip it. So once when that happened, I knew something wasn't good, and that kind of sunk in. That this, I have no idea what it was. It's pretty. So that initial shock of that happening was really, really tough. But at the same time, we still had 3 quarters left to play. I think that happened midway through the second quarter, beginning of the second quarter. And I knew Will was going to be stepping in. I knew I needed to be out there and be on the sidelines to help him in any way I could. So, that's what I did. And it definitely, looking back at that time, I remember whenever I got diagnosed with my injury and knew I was out for the year, I got on the phone. Coach Kleiman called me immediately, just making sure I was okay. And, he just said, have you ever experienced something like this before? And I said, no, I haven't. And he was going on to talking about this COVID deal. And he's like, I haven't experienced something like this in my whole career of coaching. And the only thing that this tells me is that this is going to make us so much better in the long run. When you experience difficult times and go through things that you've never experienced before, that's when you grow the most. And, that was just my mindset throughout this whole year. I knew, since I got hurt, it was like, it didn't take the C off my chest. I'm still a captain of this team. I'm still a big part of this team. And I needed to be here for Will. I need to be here for the guys and show that, that, yeah, I'm hurting inside, but I can't show that in my face. And I how I approach, every day and in the meeting rooms at practice, I got to be positive and bring positive energy to our team. And, that was my mindset. And, truly, it just has me so excited for this next year. Cause, like you said, it was a roller coaster of highs and lows for sure. And, just has me excited to get back and have a good story to tell from coming back from this.
I wanted to touch on Will for a second. You played 8 games as a freshman, started the last 4. So if there's anybody that can identify with kind of the highs and lows of being a freshman quarterback at Kansas State, I would imagine you can speak to it very well. Can you talk at all just about how much of a challenge it was for a guy like Will, where you had a typical, you graduated early, got in early, got to go through spring ball, got a couple games under your belt, 4 games under your belt before you were named a starter. And now here's Will, who kind of gets none of that. What kind of impressed you most? And I guess just for the fans, talk about just how unique of a situation it was for Will, the situation that he was put in.
Yeah. I don't think people understand how hard of a situation he got put in. Just like you said, he came in early, had a winter workout session, but no spring ball, a shrunken down fall camp, no summer. And then he's expected after our 3rd game, he's called to step in and be a full-time starter. And, yet alone the physical side of the game, but the mental side of it. And then it's just throughout a course of a season, it's a week to week just grind of mental and physical emotion. And, there comes a point in time where you get fatigued mentally, physically, and learning how to work through those things is challenging. It's challenging for me, challenging for any young player in any program that has to make that jump. But what impressed me most about Will was, he prepared every week the same way. He was always in the film room. He was always doing the extra and doing anything he possibly could do to get himself ready for the game on that week. And how I kind of assisted him was, sitting in the film room whenever we were in there at the same time and just asking him questions, of the unexpected. Like, yes, we're expecting this coverage on this down, but what if we have this play called and and we're getting this coverage. You know, what are you thinking? And just kind of just running questions off the top of his head that, you know, he might have not been thinking about. And then also just putting myself, like you said, I got to experience all that my freshman year. So I just took a moment, put myself back in those shoes, and I was like, when I was in those shoes, what helped me the most? You know, what questions, you know, whatever Coach Klein did, whoever was around me, Jesse, what helped me the most in that situation, and then trying to remove myself from it and apply that for Will's situation. And, you know, I just think Will's gonna be a really good player, man. And he, regardless of the scoreboard or the wins and losses, you know, I saw the work that he put in behind the scenes, and our whole team did. And I just kept on drilling in his head, and I know he probably got a note from me saying it, but I just kept on telling him, like, man, you don't realize how much it's going to benefit you in the long run, getting to experience this type of stuff. And because you can't simulate in-game reps. You know, you can get all the practice reps you can possibly get, all that type of stuff, but there's nothing that simulates a on the field live game reps versus Big 12 teams. I mean, it's a type of speed and physicality that you can't simulate in practice. So the fact that he got to experience all that this year, I mean, it's just gonna benefit him a ton. And Will and I are really, really tight. We're really, really good friends, really close. And he knows I have his best interest in mind all the time. And, you know, I've told him that from day one. So, you know, I'm really excited to get another year to work with him. And then we got Jake coming in, who will be here this offseason as well. You know, and it's just embracing my role on this team, you know, being a sixth-year guy, getting, you know, I've experienced pretty much everything you could think of throughout my college career, and just being able to bounce that off of those younger guys and preparing them for the future to better off this program.
Now, likewise, you talked about experience and things you can't simulate. Normally, you can't simulate being up in the press box on a game day, you know, and being so close to Coach Klein and Coach Mess when they're going through that. But beyond what fans saw through, you know, the television lens of you up in the box, you know, with a headset on or whatever, how involved were you from a coaching standpoint? I mean, did you truly become a player coach from a, you know, Sunday to Friday standpoint, in addition to what we were able to see on Saturdays too?
Yeah. So you know, what I appreciate Coach Kleiman so much for this is, you know, whenever I got hurt, you know, he told me, he was like, I want you involved. You know, I want you up in meetings. I want you around everyone. I want you around at practice. He just kept me busy to where I really didn't have a lot of time to really think about what had happened you know, affecting me, you know, personally. You know, I really honestly, until I want to say towards the end of the year, whenever the season was over, I didn't really have a chance to really even wrap my mind around what had just happened. And I appreciate him so much for that, because it helped me so much, and helped my growth as a player and as a person as well. Because, you know, I wouldn't say I was necessarily a player coach to the fullest, because it wasn't like I was sitting in our staff meetings or offensive staff meetings throughout the entire week, game planning and that type of stuff. It was more so of whenever I got done with my rehab, I could basically, you know, it was up to me of what I wanted to do. But there would be some days where I would just go sit in the D staff meeting and watch our defensive staff game plan for whoever we were playing. So I was able to hear the defensive verbiage and see the defensive side of a game prep week, and what. And honestly, that benefited me more than anything. Like just hearing Coach Kleineman's verbiage, and, you know, these are the three best plays that we need to stop, and how are we going to do it? And so that just kind of got my wheels turning in my head, and, you know, thinking about, you know, how do teams prepare for us, you know, type thing, and what we're really good at. And it just helps run the game together. But then on game day, you know, I was up in the box, And I basically just stood behind Coach Messingham, and he would give me a list of plays to look at, and that he would basically, I mean, essentially what I learned more so than anything this year is that football is a chess match. I mean, it's always you're calling something to set up something later, and it's just a back and forth, just mind game, to be honest. And so basically that's basically what I was for Mess was, I was all looking for, what we'd call a formation or, a play. And then I would have a list of, these are what our play calls are set up for after in that formation. So when we get in a formation, I would look at my list of like, okay, this is how they're lining up. This is what coverages we're getting to this formation, this down and distance. And, I think this would be good. So basically whenever we got done with possession, he would sit there and ask me what coverages I was seeing, and just have an open dialogue, do we have access to throw something quick out in the flats, or do we like what, Briley running this route, or whatever the case may be. There's a handful of situations that I was looking for, but just seeing the game from up top, it just like, it almost felt like a whole different football game. Like it
Right.
was just, it felt so much slower. And I could see things happen before they even happened. A lot of the time before you even said hike, I was like, oh, Malik's going to get the ball here, or we're going to go to deuce here. So that part of the game was really cool. And, just hearing the game day dialogue of the intensity, the coaches up on the headsets, and listening to Coach Kleiman, just his thought process of, using timeouts, situational football, and, that type of stuff was really interesting, because it's stuff that I know, but I just don't hear,
Right.
normally. So getting to hear that type of stuff was really cool. And I think it's going to benefit me a lot whenever I get back on the field.
December 6th comes around, you run out on the field as a senior, as seniors do. Did you know you were coming back at that point when you hugged Coach Kleiman? Did you know? Did he know, or was it still a complete question mark?
I mean, it was still up in the air. But me personally, I knew I wanted to be back here. I knew that I wanted to play at K-State. But just like what Coach Kleiman said throughout the whole year, he held off on those conversations with all the seniors, just to be fair. Like it wasn't with games to be played and a season left to be played. It wasn't a fair question to ask anyone, or for any of our senior class to talk about, for our football team and for us personally. So it definitely was something that it was interesting. It was an interesting day for sure, because
Right.
I was, I know this is my last go at it, but if the coaches are welcoming back with open arms, this is where I want to be, and this is where I want to finish my career. And so that was definitely an interesting day. But it wasn't until I think the Friday after signing day was when me and Coach Kleiman like truly sat down and had a conversation, and it went phenomenal. And he knew where my head was at. He knew where I wanted to be, and how I was, wanting to come back from this injury. And so we were on the same page 100%. And he welcomed me back with open arms, man. And I was super grateful, because I didn't want to think about the whole process of trying to find another school or whatever the case may be, in today's world, and with how much K-State means to me, and how much I've, brought to this university throughout my time here. This is where I want to be. This is home. And I love this place. I love the coaches. I love my teammates. And so it worked out great to have one more year in purple, and I'm super excited about it.
It's so atypical, though, because I mean, maybe if you're a junior, and you've had a tremendous season, say like Elijah Lee did, and you kind of have the thought go through your mind of leaving early, or whether you should leave early or come back. But as a senior, it's so weird to even have the opportunity to come back another year.
Mhm.
So how early was the chatter happening in the locker room, you know, of guys coming up like, hey, Skylar, you coming back? Or you going up to Briley, hey, Briley, you coming back? I mean, how early and often were those conversations taking place?
Um, Honestly, like the chatter really happened like a week after I got hurt and when I had surgery. That's when a lot of people were asking me a lot of what was going on, um, and what my future was going to look like. Um, but I mean, it honestly just happened so quick. And just like what you said, you know, I was mentally preparing myself for this being my last year. This whole off season, this whole summer, you know, I was fully focused on having a great year this year and walking away from it. But then whenever this happened, it kind of put a halt on all that stuff. So it definitely was a conversation that guys were wanting to have with me, but you know, I just kept on just putting it off and just saying, you know, we still got a whole season to play, and that's what's important right now, and we got to go win some football games this year. So you know, I just did my best to manage that and not be a distraction. That was the biggest thing for me. I didn't want to be a distraction for our team or for Will or for anybody. You know, that's not fair to anybody. And but I will tell you, whenever I knew I was coming back, I definitely did some recruiting. I had some conversations with Briley and some other guys that I thought were on the verge of coming back and whatnot. But you know, at the end of the day, it's you know, having us being here for a sixth year is tough. I mean, it's just it's crazy. I mean, I think having you know, guys like Justin Hughes and Elijah Sullivan that have gone through a situation like that I'm in right now, were very beneficial. Just talking to them of, you know, how mentally did you approach it, and like hit the reset button of like, you know, I was expecting to be done, but you know, here I have a whole other off season and summer, fall camp, all that type of stuff. So having guys like that on the team that have gone through a similar situation was very, very helpful. And you know, we got you know, I think me and J Mac, Boom, Cody Fletcher, and some other guys. We got a handful of guys that are coming back that I think is very good for our program moving forward, and it's going to be beneficial. And I'm excited to get an opportunity to play with him again.
I'm gonna put you on the spot because I don't think he's publicly said anything. Noah Johnson, anything on that you can comment on? I like it. Well,
were you looking at me, Skylar?
Yeah. He doesn't have any social media to put that out there, but I don't want to be the one to say what he's gonna do. But no, me and Noah. All I'm saying is me and Noah are really close. He's probably one of my best friends, and whenever I got hurt, he you know, he basically let me know what he was going to do. So I'll leave it at that and let him share that with you guys in whatever way that he can do that.
How close did you feel like Briley and maybe even Wyatt were to sticking around? I mean, did you feel like you had some pretty productive conversations, or I mean, maybe in Wyatt's case it was a little different since he didn't have the injury that Briley did and was able to put a lot there on paper and in film, so maybe he was more out the door than Briley. But did you feel like you had a shot with Briley?
Yeah. No, I thought Briley and I had some really good conversations, but Briley knew from the get-go that I had his best interest in mind, and whatever he chose to do, you know, I'm gonna ride with you and have your back through it all, and we're gonna be good regardless. You know, that's the type of relationship me and Briley have. But obviously, me being a little selfish, you know, I was hoping he would come back. But the thing is about Briley is he's in a whole different situation than I am. You know, he has a fiance, he has a 1-year-old kid. He's experienced a season-ending injury. I know that was in the back of his head, and I think, you know, he's just to the point where he's put enough on film and has the statistics to show his body of work. And it was time to go take his chance and see what happens. So, whenever he told me that he was indeed going to leave, I was super happy for him. I love that dude. And we just joke around about, what could have been, we
Right.
talked about all the time about getting to play together, and sure enough, it got cut short. But the 2.5 games that we got to play with each other, we were productive and did some good things and made some memories that we'll be telling our kids about someday together. So, that was a tough one. That was a tough one to see leave. But I'm super happy for him and excited for the future for him. And then Wyatt, I talked to him a little bit, but he same situation. I mean, not the same situation, but same thing. I mean, he's like, I think I put enough on film, and I don't know if there's much more that I can show or prove. I've done what I've set out to do, and I'm ready to go take my chance and bet on myself and see what happens. So, Wyatt, just like everybody knows, he's a really good football player, and he has a motor like I've never seen before. So, yeah, I'd put my money on him 10 times out of 10 if I could. So, for all those guys that are leaving and moving on to the next stage of their life, it's, I'm super happy for them, whether if they're playing football or not. Those relationships with those guys I'll cherish for the rest of my life. And the guys that I came in with redshirting, the guys like Mike McCoy,
Right.
getting everything taken away from him. And Lord knows what he could accomplish if he could have played, because he was a freak of nature that I've never seen before. But just having memories of those redshirt years when we were redshirt and going through developmental, telling those stories and talking about those times, it's just stuff that you'll never forget. So for all those guys, I'm happy for them, and I'm looking forward to working with the guys that are coming back.
I've only got about 2 more for you, Skylar. So as we wrap up, one of the other things, that I think has changed for a guy in your shoes this year that's a little different, kind of sticking with this whole recruiting theme, is not only do you have the decision to return, but then as we were talking about, talking other guys into staying or maybe getting some new guys to come. So with the
Mm-hmm.
transfer portal and the opt-ins and opt-outs and all this stuff,
Yeah.
do you find yourself doing more recruiting than you have since maybe you were a senior at Fort Osage?
Hey, I'm telling you that my best friend during this time, me being hurt, was Sped. I literally every day, not just for recruiting purposes, but I mean, I would just go in there, sit on the couch, and talk to him about everything, because he's the one that brought me in here and knows me best. And that's very, very interesting. You say that, because I called him the other day talking about this transfer, and he just like jokingly said, "Man, you're turning into a coach now. Like, truly, like you're out here recruiting better than I am." And just jokingly just talking about that. But it's crazy, man. With this transfer portal stuff, it's opened up a whole new aspect of the game, and with colleges and recruiting guys. So
Do kids reach out to you, Skylar? Like, that's one thing I'm curious about. Like, you would think that they would go through the coaches and stuff, but I mean, do you find other players, transfer players, reaching out to players, kind of like, "Hey, can you get me in the door? Hey, I'd like to play with you," kind of thing?
Yeah. The biggest thing for them is just they have to be in the portal before they can do that.
Gotcha.
But there's definitely stuff like that happening. I mean, guys that haven't either been picked up or had offers or whatever the case may be, or just are very, very intrigued of playing at K-State. I've had tons of people reach out to me that are in the portal, just trying to get their foot in the door with our coaches, and me saying something to them about it. So that's been fun for me, honestly, because just like you said, I mean, I want to be a coach someday, and it's given me the opportunity to recruit guys and watch their film, and the coaches really listen to my input of what I think on a person or whatnot, or they'll offer somebody and be like, "Hey, this is a guy that we offered. Here's his number," and then I step in and talk and answer any questions they have because, like I've been here for 6 years and I know this university pretty well, so I can answer a lot of those questions that maybe that they can't. So it's been super fun. It's wild though. It's truly the wild, wild west, as some people would say. But I mean, in today's game, the transfers are important, and we saw how much Briley helped our team last year. So I think we've gotten 3 so far. That safety from Louisville and Eric from Utah State, and then that D tackle from Charlotte. So all defensive guys, but I know we're open to some other spots for sure. Just want to make sure that they're the right guys and right fit for our team and our university before we pull the trigger on them.
Well, and lastly, with the guys that are going to be back, or that are already inked and or are already on campus that well, what kind of expectations do you have for the 2021 offense? Not only obviously the guys that you've played with many times before, but also from the standpoint of the guys that you were able to watch on scout team and stuff like that come up this year, or the RJ Garcias and Brennan Hawkins that you're kind of getting to know through recruiting. What kind of expectation level do you put on this offense coming up in the next year?
I think that I think the sky's the limit for our offense. I'm obviously not going to I don't want to set any expectations or anything for what we want to accomplish or whatever. But I do know we're going to have our entire offensive line coming back, and guys like Taylor Portier and Carver Willis. At the end of the year, getting whenever Ben and Revis got put on the COVID list, them getting some truly, really good reps versus Baylor and Texas. I think we have 7 or 8 guys that can truly play up front and that got legit playing time this year. So that it all starts up front, man. And, if we can get Noah lured into coming back and leading that charge, he's the most important piece up there. He runs the show. He's a great leader. And he's just an energy guy, man. He's so fun to play with, and he affects our entire offense, entire football team. So, and, it starts with those guys up front that, I'm super excited to have another go around with. And obviously we get Deuce Vaughn back, man. That dude's one of the most special players that, I think anybody in the K-State fan base or that's been around here for a while will say that's come through here in a while. He's a special kid and special player. But what excites me the most about him is that kid has been the same person from day one to now. After getting freshman All-American, getting all these accolades, he's the same person, and he truly just wants the team to be successful and wants to win. Could care less about his individual stats, individual accolades. He just wants to win, wants to do well. And I'll tell you a quick story that really stood out to me, that once again, me seeing everything from a bird's eye view, that really stood out to me, that, I was like, man, I can't wait to play with Deuce again. We were playing Baylor this year, and Will threw a ball to Malik that was completed for a first down, and Malik in the progression was one of our first reads, but Deuce was running a route out of the backfield where he's like our second option. And probably 9 times out of 10, the ball is going to go to Deuce. But for whatever reason, the coverage permitting, Malik was the throw, and Deuce was wide open. It probably would have scored if we get to our second read. But, I mean, Coach Klein and Messingham, they always tell us, going through progressions, if you got your first one, take it. Who cares? We'll always come back to it. But a selfish player would have been throwing a fit that they didn't get the ball because it would have been a touchdown. But Deuce was the first person to sprint over to Malik and pick him up and congratulate him on a catch. And it's such a little thing, but to me, it just spoke volumes about the guy. And so I'm super excited for him to have an offseason in our lifting program and being able to work with him and to see how much better he can get from this year. And then, having Malik back, him and I have had a lot of conversations here recently just about what we want to accomplish this year together. He's a really special kid that I think went through more adversity than anybody I would wish on anybody over the past 8 months with COVID and some family things. And, I have a really good relationship with him and want to see him succeed. So I'm really excited to have an off season of watching film and working with him and throwing to him whenever I can, and seeing what that relationship and that piece can accomplish this year. So, and then you sprinkle in guys like, Phillip Brooks, who's been a steady Eddie for us forever. I think he, some guys leaving, and I think his role is gonna step up a little bit. But then, obviously I haven't met them in person, but RJ Garcia and Brennan Hawkins, like you said, I know Brennan is coming in at semester. I know he's a big dude, and just body type looks like a kid that could contribute from the get-go. So, I'm obviously it's been proven that this staff doesn't care how old you are. If you're a freshman or a 60-year senior, if you can play ball and you can help us win games, they're going to find a way to get you on the field. So I'm super excited just to see how all that plays out. And then hopefully just, God willing, that we get a normal off season together. Because I think that will benefit us as an offense big time. Having workouts, having spring ball, having time to find out our identity and what we're good at and who we are as an offense. That's super important to establish and understand going into the season. So I'm looking forward to it, and I know a lot of our guys are. I think obviously I've been here for a while, but this is one of the most, I think, bought in teams that I've been around. The guys we have coming back, I can truly say that everyone on our team is bought in and wants to win. And for all the fans out there that will probably listen to the way the things shook out at the end of the year, I'm telling you, I know from the outside looking in, it didn't look like we were making progress or there were things going on, but I'm telling you, we're in good hands, and Coach Kleiman knows what he's doing. This coaching staff is second to none, and we believe in him. We believe in Coach Kleiman and what he's doing, and truly, everybody that's stuck around and is going to be on our team next year, we're bought into what we're doing here, and we want to win. And I'll be the first to say it. That's all that matters to me. That's why I want to come back. I want to win and go out on a high note, and do it the right way and play K-State football. And hopefully we can have 50,000 people there next year to root us on. Because I'll tell you what, that was another thing that was just weird. So weird. I know I didn't get to experience it for a little bit, but it was just a very odd year. So I'm hoping we can get some normalcy, and my senior year can be as normal as it possibly can be. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Skylar, final question. I went through the media guide, and I'm not very good with math, so don't hold me to all of these, but I think I'm fairly close here. You're about 300, I think, rushing yards away from being top 3 all time in rushing yards by a quarterback at K-State. You're like roughly, I think, like 100 completions away from top 3 in that category at K-State for a quarterback, and you're within striking distance of top 5 passing yards for a quarterback. I'm guessing that none of that plays into a decision to come back. But at the same time, you're not a guy, like you said, Deuce doesn't really look at that kind of thing, and I don't think you do either. So what is it that you do want to be remembered by? Now that you do have one more opportunity, what's kind of the stamp that you want to leave on the K-State program here in 2021? Fans will remember. Fans years from now will remember Skylar Thompson when they flip through the media guide, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, he was that quarterback that was top 5 and top 3 and all these." But for the people that will have been around to see you or know you, I mean, what's the stamp that you want to leave on them?
I hope I'm remembered as a kid that, no matter what was thrown at him, no matter how much adversity he had faced, he always kept his head down, believed in himself, and persevered. And obviously, that comes from within me personally, but ultimately he did it for the people around him because he wanted to better the people around him and the university, the fan base. That's what drove him. And that is what I wanted. My identity, it's never been about the individual accolades, the wins, the losses. Obviously that's important, but ultimately I want to be known as a person who impacted every single person he touched along the way. And whether if that's a fan, a teammate, a trainer, a coach, whatever the case may be, that I had an impact on their life and made their life better in whatever way I possibly could. And ultimately when I leave here, I know I'm very aware of the tradition here at K-State, and getting to play for Coach Snyder, playing for both coaches. It's a very rich football program, and people wanna see us win. And whether for getting blown out or beating the number 3 team in the country, there's always fans there supporting us. And to me, that ultimately is what hits home and what made it easy for me to come back, because there's a lot of fans out there that have stuck with me through the highs and the lows and reached out to me on social media, supporting me, encouraging me. The amount of letters that I got in the mail after I got hurt was breathtaking. I mean, it literally took my breath away. People took the time to write me and tell me that they cared about me and whatever, supported me and thanked me for what I've done over my time at K-State. So, like I said many times, this is my home. This is where my heart's at. If you cut me open, I would bleed purple, and I love it. I love it that way. And I just know this my story is not done, and there's a great opportunity to really capitalize it off with a great ending. And that motivates me personally, and as a leader and a person in this community in Manhattan, of being the best I can be. Always having a smile on my face, always just having a positive impact on the people that I encounter with, and doing it the right way. And that's ultimately what I want to be remembered for. I know that's a lot, but I think that can kind of be dumbed down into a couple key things. So that's what I would say.